What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 podcast news award winner and 2018 innovation winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. Also know that once a month I host conversations that are fathers and dads that are co-sponsored by Dad Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization and Dove Men Care. And as always, as I say, you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. You know that I always like bringing on new friends to the Dr. Vibe Show. And we have another new friend tonight. We have Dr. Cassandra Bolar, and she's a marital success strategist. Her work as a marriage and family therapist, family studies researcher, and psychology professor informs her approach to helping marriages thrive. She specializes in couples create and maintain a positive marriage culture. She is the author of Preparing Your Marriage, Doing the Emotional and Spiritual Work to Love Unconditionally. She's created the Marriage Head Start Academy. I like that provides educational programs for premarital couples and individuals. Dr. Cassandra's research has been awarded federal and private grant funding in the United States, and she has numerous peer-reviewed research articles. She received her bachelor's degree in child and family development from the University of Georgia and her master's and doctoral degrees in human development and family studies from Auburn University, the Auburn Tigers. She holds a Certified Family Life Educator credential from the National Council on Family Relations. She lives in Atlanta, Georgia, with her husband, Dr. Ronnie Bolar, and their 2 children. And she's going to be joining us tonight speaking about Black men and uplifting their relationships. Let's welcome for the first time, but not the last time, Dr. Cassandra.
Hi, I'm so delighted to be here.
How are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Hope you are as well.
I am blessed and highly favored and magnet for miracles and a solution for someone's problem. I had the opportunity of having Dr. Cassandra share on an event that was called COVID-19 and Poverty Implications for Black Authors and Their Families back on November 12th. It was hosted by Kenneth Braswell and the Fathers Incorporated team. And during that conversation, Kenneth, unbeknownst to me, said, you panelists, you got to get on the Dr. Vibe Show. I said, okay. So I didn't wait. I was on the offensive and I reached out to Dr. Cassandra and the 2 other panelists to say, hey, would love to have you on. And Dr. Cassandra's first out of the box. So thank you for taking the time out of your positive, productive schedule.
Oh, yes. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, great bio. But we want to hear a little bit more, the early before the doctor, Cassandra. So where was Cassandra born, growing up, etc.? Please do share.
Yeah, so I'm actually originally from Atlanta, Georgia. That's where I was born and raised. And I grew up here, and family has always been a very important part of my life, family traditions. And, I've been blessed to have an amazing father and family. And, I always grew up with this desire. I knew I wanted to help children. I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician, a doctor, medical doctor. But then I recognized that the home has such a large impact on a child's trajectory. And then I kind of switched courses, during my college years. And I really, honestly, I prayed and I said, Lord, how do you want me to use my gift set? And I was just kind of led to the child and family development field. And I said, if I can help the home environment, I think that'll be very powerful way to impact the future. And so I've had an opportunity to do in-home therapy. So in inner city Atlanta, and then I've also done a lot of training in rural America as well. Actually doing a lot of work in Tuskegee, Alabama, as well as Mississippi. So I've actually been able to kind of see the contrast and the similarities as as well for families in urban communities as well as rural communities. And also doing a lot of service-based research in the community with parenting interventions and just that exposure. And it literally lit a fire within me. And, when you're going through and you're getting all this training, it's wonderful. And you think about the research implications. But for me, it was always, what is the so what factor of this research? And how do we take this information and translate it in a way to which the common public can easily digest it and make it accessible? This just shouldn't be in research journals. These are life skills. This information could literally help someone heal. It could change their life and the trajectory of their family. So I said, how can I felt this personal responsibility, honestly, to take this information and back to my communities and share it in a way that really resonates with and empowers people, and so that's just kind of my heartbeat behind this work. And, some of the things that I've seen, going into homes, talking to grandparents, foster parents, it was honestly life-changing for me. And I see this as, I guess a profession, but I also see it honestly as my calling, something that I'm called to do. And I hope that this information is empowering. I hope that, I'm just being used as an instrument, essentially, utilizing research as a tool, utilizing counseling as a tool to help people improve their quality of life.
That is absolutely fantastic. We could just spend an hour just on what you just shared. Two or three things I want you to highlight on in regards to what you just shared with us. You mentioned your father, and you mentioned family. So first of all, how has your father impacted you to the wonderful person you are today?
Oh, so kind. I feel like I have a deep degree of self-worth, and I never questioned my self-worth. And it's really interesting, like even watching him with my children and my mom, and it's kind of like, wow, is that how y'all loved us growing up? So like, wow, it's like there's something special here that you're sharing with them. And I feel like I'm probably getting a glimpse of what they shared with us during childhood. And I never second guessed, who I was. I never felt like I needed to look for love in places that were unhealthy. Because he always emphasized to me that, Cassandra, I have your back. If you need anything, you come to me first, and honestly, he showed me what a strong man looks like. He showed me what a healthy father looks like. And he showed me honestly what to look for. In selecting my life partner and my husband, and I recognize that that's a gift. But here's the thing: is that fathers they lay such a critical foundation for that family and for that home life, and a lot of it rests on their backs, and they just play such a critical and a unique role in the lives of their children, like such an essential piece. And I recognize that, who I am today, my capacity to love was heavily shaped by the unconditional love that my father gave me during childhood, and even to this day.
That's a huge statement.
Yeah. I think it expanded it. I think I feel like there aren't constraints on me in that respect. I feel like there's I don't have as much fear. I think sometimes there's an apprehension about, going into relationships, but I feel like he set the standard.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You also mentioned family, and obviously with the passion, because I don't think what you do, I don't want to call it work. I call it passion. Where did you get the foundation of strong families in your journey?
Yes. I'm blessed and honored. Like, this is a generational thing, such that, my mom and dad are been married for over 40 years. My grandparents, it was until death did them part, over 50 years. My great grandparents, they, it was until death do you part. And I think, a very, so they just, I feel like I have nothing but examples, going back, with, strong marriages, strong fathers. And I think a pillar in our family throughout the generations as well has been faith. And I think that has laid the foundation, and it has produced an integrity in the men in my family and the women in my family. And it has given them, I think, staying power as a couple. And it's beautiful to see that replication of throughout the generations. And family is so, so important because, I mean, it has shaped me. And I see sometimes when those protections aren't there and what that does. And so I'm really, really grateful for that foundation that has been laid throughout the generations. And I can literally go and look and say, okay, this is what my mama did. This is what my grandmother did. This is what my great grandmother did. And, even beyond that, and even longevity runs in our family. We have a lot of centenarians in my family, and I'm just grateful. So
Nice. You chose to study the family or about families. When did you start honing in specifically on Black men and Black fathers? What was the impetus for you to start really looking at Black men and Black fathers?
I see them as well. I guess I'm Black. It was just a natural interest of mine personally, and I'm always trying to get to the root cause. I think a lot of times when we're looking at things, we're kind of, addressing the symptoms. And so for me, I see the family as the foundation of the community. And I see the marriage as an important foundation for the family. And I recognize too that ideal may not be possible for a lot of people in a lot of different situations, but I see it as a healthy foundation if we're able to have a healthy marriage. And then I think, the foundation of the having a strong male, having a strong father, having a strong man as that it's something that you can build upon. Okay. And so I, seeing that unique contribution of fathers and seeing honestly a lot of people voice some of their trauma related to their relationship with their father. Seeing that as well and hearing those stories, I just wanted to learn more.
Excellent. Well, let's roll up our sleeves and get to it, because this is at times a very challenging conversation topic. But I know I'm in good company, that this will be a light shining conversation. Let me first open up. When you started, did you come into the study of the Black man, Black father with any preconceptions, or were you wide open? Because obviously we hear preconceptions.
Yeah. Honestly, I was a little bit disappointed in the literature because I saw a very different picture from what was depicted in literature. In the research literature was what I mean. I think it was very, it was from a deficit model, I think. And I just knew that that's not the whole picture. I knew that this research that is, I knew it was telling a story, but it was it wasn't a comprehensive story. I was just thinking that there's more to the story about Black fathers that is pervasive in the literature. And so for me, when, reading it, it was like, is this all that's the focus? Are these the only populations of Black fathers that we're looking into? Even when we're thinking about socioeconomic strata and just this depiction, it seemed very narrow to me. And I was honestly very disappointed because of what I've seen and what I've experienced. And not only did I see that for myself, I've seen these these real life depictions of Black fathers that I experienced up close and personally. So for me, it was kind of disappointing to see what was so pervasive in the literature. And I kind of came in and I was like, I want to give a more comprehensive view on what's true for Black fatherhood and tell more stories so that we can kind of understand the full picture and the full gamut of Black fatherhood.
Why is the information out there? Is it justifiably showing the right story, or is there a laziness of not really wanting to go down to any deeper? Are people just, whoever's doing the research, just doing the surfacing without taking the time and investing in finding out the deeper story?
I think it could be a combination of the two. And I think also, too, that there is an over dependence on samples that are just kind of easy to get to. I guess like you were saying before, those convenient samples. And, a lot of research has looked at just poverty stricken. And some of those factors are compounding. So sometimes it's kind of hard to tease apart race from SES related variables. And a lot of times they are happening together, but it's not a full picture. So I think that, it just behooves the research community to dig a little bit deeper into investigating what Black fatherhood looks like.
During your journey and your experience, how much of the research being done about Black fathers is being done by people who look like us?
So I think that kind of sways the narrative, right? And with regard to, who are the researchers, I think that we are starting to see a lot more Black scholars examining Black fatherhood. And I think that within itself will start to kind of curb some of what we're seeing in the abundance of the deficit model and combating that. And so I think that is very hopeful. And it's not just it's Black male scholars, and then also Black female scholars. I'm actually a part of a group of Black female scholars who focus primarily on working and studying Black fathers. So it is definitely growing, and I think that that's going to change kind of the narrative that we see, because, as much as you want to say you're completely objective and things of that nature, and who you are doesn't influence the types of questions that you ask, the types of answers that you're looking for, it does, and we need that diversity. We need that diversity of thought, that diversity of inquiry to get a more comprehensive picture, I think.
Nice. When we were talking offline, preparing for this conversation, we came to an agreement on Black men and uplifting their relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we have a question here. So let me put it up on the screen. Melvin Lars is asking, does anyone really feel like Black father is in need of research?
Is like as a specific line of inquiry?
Yes.
I think so, because what we do see is that fathers add something very unique to the lives of their children. Qualitatively, there's something different and something unique that fathers add into the lives of their children. And so if we can understand that in depth, and then also understand the unique nuances of Black fatherhood and how, that may vary from other ethnicities, so that when we want to intervene or when we want to do best practices, that is evidence-based, and it's not just, opinions based, but it's been proven to be effective, through, evaluating programs, through being informed by by research. And so I think it's very critical if we want to kind of progress the field in a way to improve child well-being. That's my whole kind of reason why I do this work. I'm of course concerned about the fathers, their well-being, but thinking about that next generation, who they are impacting, who's coming behind them. And that's very important, very critical.
And Mr. Lars has a follow-up question. He goes, where is the confusion?
Where is the confusion? I think that there are always going to be limitations to each study. And they kind of highlight that, limitations, where are the gaps, where are the research gaps? And it's on, I guess, it's on us as researchers to kind of fill in those gaps and try to better explain those stories. But I think that's what keeps it refreshing. That's what keeps it exhilarating, to know that there's still more to learn and there's still work to do.
Excellent. Before I let Mr. Lars take over for a few minutes, let me get back in here. We decided to talk about Black men and uplifting their relationships. So let's start from the ground level. What do you feel in your journey, in your studies, in your experiences? What do you feel the state of Black men and their relationships are right now? And I'm going to put in that question, and then I'm going to ask an A and B. What are their relationships? Well, actually, you know what? Let me just hold it right there because I could go deeper. So just an overview. Where do you think the relations are at right now in general?
I think that there is a lot on Black men in general. And I think that the beauty of relationships for Black men in particular is that it can be a safe haven from a world that is not as appreciative as they should be of Black men. And so I see relationships as a very safe place for them. It can be a safe haven. Now, that may not always be. I'm always shooting for the ideal. That's me. That's my bend in life. I'm a natural optimist, right? And however, as well, we need to create spaces for Black men in particular to feel safe, to be able to express their emotions. And oftentimes when we're thinking about it along, I guess, typical gender behavior, a lot of times, women, we're kind of very much so relationship oriented. We get a lot of value, out of our relationships. And that can actually be a strength when we provide that safe haven in our relationships. So I see that I see relationships for Black men as being a place of safety for them. But then I also see that, the reality of the world that we're living in, for Black men, sometimes it can be unsafe for them emotionally. And that can also pour out. We can see that spillover effect, such that can impact how we all show up. It's whoever, regardless, if you're stressed out at work, that's going to probably spill over into how you show up at home or show up in other relationships. And so I think being attuned to that, being sensitive to that, and being a safe space for helping Black men process that, I think is very important.
And it's interesting. I always hear that term, a safe space. And I've dropped this in different conversations. Earlier on this year, I had a chance to go up in the northern part of Canada, and I had a chance to do some sharing with the culture of Indigenous people. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that a gentleman said to me at the beginning of this conference that I had a chance to share at, he said, we want to create a safe and brave space. And I always hear the safe space, but I think especially for Black men and Black fathers, it also needs the brave space. And the question I have for you is, do you feel that Black men have any places to be both?
Well, I know they need it. I know I know that they definitely need both of those spaces because, you know, we need to, I think regardless of your gender, you need to have spaces where you feel empowered, and then you can also be vulnerable and you can lay it down, and you won't be attacked, and to be able to have, be able to bear it all, but then also be able to put on, and be the strong, empowered person that you are, and being able to do that and have that duality. I think it is important. I think it's especially important for men and Black men, especially because of a society in which they are oftentimes disempowered. So having these spaces where I can reveal who I am, I can be vulnerable, I can let my guard down, but then I can also stand in my strength and feel brave and honestly be the man that I want to be. I think there is that duality there.
Wonderful. Got a number of people there commenting, but I have to put up this comment first. Someone says hello.
Oh.
Now who may that be?
It's my husband.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Mr. Bolar. Your dear wife is hitting it out of the park, just like I thought, and I know she would. So I will say to you, my brother, you married up. I'm just going to leave it at that. All right. So continuing on, we got some other comments coming out here. Olivia Funk says, we as women need to be better allies to our men. Mm-hmm. And Melvin Lars says, absolutely, Fung. Yeah. So another question too. Melvin Lars is on fire tonight. So he's got another one for you. Let me just put it up here. As a Black man, I really don't see why women and others feel that we are so complex. Yeah. Could you speak to that?
Love is simple. At the end of the day, love is simple. Kindness is simple. Being considerate is simple. I think that when we make it so complicated, we've probably kind of gotten stuck in our own feelings. And at the end of the day, we have to definitely consider the other. Harville Hendrix and his wife, they wrote a book called Making Marriage Simple. And when we can make things simple, we make it easier on ourselves to love the other person. Like, our needs are basic. Come on now. Like, just like the needs that we were born into this world, attachment, like, your primary caregiver, they serve a very critical need. They meet your basic needs. They respond to you. They help to shape your internal working model and self-worth. The reality is that need to bond to a significant other, it never goes away. It just switches. From being a parent to now being your significant life partner. And we never lose that need to have those basic attachment needs to be met. Turn toward each other, talk to one another, and share and connect. Like, all of that is critical, but it's basic. It's basic. And when things are getting too complicated, maybe it's an indication that we need to look at ourselves and see how we're complicating. But really, this thing is, love is simple. Being kind is simple. Attending to someone's needs is too simple. But oftentimes what is happening is that we have our own competing needs. We have things that we're going through. We're trying to navigate, get my needs met and your needs met. And sometimes those needs may be in conflict with one another. So you have to see, how can we meet each other on common ground and meet each other halfway and make it simple. Simplify that thing.
Dr. Cassandra, we're going deep now. You're getting me coming now. We're coming with you now. We're coming with you. So a few things, and there's so many. You mentioned about ways that Black men and Black fathers have been, you used a term and I can't remember it. And I had it in my head and I forgot, unfortunately. But they're basically disenfranchised, something to that extent. You said that some people and many people and some of their significant others don't know some of the areas or some of the ways they've been disenfranchised. From your studies, from your journey, what are some of the ways that Black fathers, Black men have been disenfranchised? Because their other halves may not know and may not realize.
Most definitely. it could be small things that we don't even recognize, just social interactions whereby they may be walking down the street and someone looks at them funny and feels, and maybe not greet them with the same level of kindness that they would someone else. Like, people can feel that, people sense that, right? You walk into the store and they're not as cordial with you as they are with other people. Granted, we're strong, but that can potentially wear on you. Right. And then as well, and then maybe even these microaggressions at work, and the thing about it is that these things can add up. And sometimes we can become so used to it that, but we're still not blind to it. You can get used to a thing, but you can still feel it, and that just definitely, it adds up. And so, maybe even kind of, how was your day? What was going on for you today? What did you experience today? And I think too, especially even as Black women, our experiences are somewhat different, you know, but similar as well. And that can actually be a place of connection and safe space. Like you understand. I can talk to you about this, and so, those microaggressions, they add up. And until you've walked in the shoes of a Black man, you won't really understand.
I'm a lady saying that, folks, not a guy. All right. So if you have any push back, you come after her, but you're going to have to go through Ronnie first. You know what I'm saying? Let me ask here too, and this may be a part that a lot of people don't realize. I don't know if you know or not, but I do a lot of work with fathers.
Yes.
And Black fathers also. And I share this story periodically when we have conversations like this. A number of years ago, I had an opportunity to host an event called Minding Our Minds. And what it was Black fathers and mental health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So 2 days before,
mm-hmm.
we only had 3 registrations.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many showed up for the event?
200.
I wish it was. Yeah, man. Maybe if you and your husband were presented, maybe it would have been 2,000. I'm not qualified in that, but had 40.
Mm.
And most of them didn't know each other. And you being a presenter, you have your flip charts and everything ready and all that. And the one above told me to ask a question. And the question was to these fathers, how many of you have or had a good relationship with your father?
Mm-hmm.
How many hands do you think went up?
1.
2.
Yeah.
So I give that context, bringing it into this conversation, how much a Black father's relationship with his father impacts the relationships or the lack of relationship skills that he has.
It can handicap him in those areas. And this is not just true for Black men, this is true for people in general. Because when we think about it, like, you get your identity from your father. And so if you are walking around and you don't quite know your father, it may take you even more time to actually even identify who you are. And because you haven't had anyone speak into your life and tell you who you are. You come from me, you see. And even when we think about it during biblical times, when they were on their deathbeds, they would bring their children around, their sons namely, and they would speak into their lives. This is who you are. This is what I see you accomplishing. And even from my research, I was looking at data, and I was looking at how your past experiences with your own father, how that impacts your level of depression. It's so interesting that you say this, because I created a cascade model that looked at all these things that you just discussed. And what we found was that men who did not have a relationship with their father, meaning they did not, and that we looked at multiple variables to kind of assess that. Okay. They didn't have a relationship with their father. They had a higher likelihood of depression, right? And not only did they have a higher likelihood of depression, but that depression negatively impacted their intimate relationship quality. And so,
That's big. You just dropped a huge
yeah,
knowledge bomb there, and
yeah,
I really am glad that you are speaking to this, because I don't think it's talked about enough. Like, we hear about, black men don't have their fathers, but it doesn't. We don't drill down on the long term impact it has, and what you shared there is just huge to me, and I'm sure
yeah.
huge to people who are watching this live on the replay. Have here one of the great supporters of the Dr. Vibe show, Nicole, saying that makes so much sense on fatherhood and depression.
Yes, yes, yes. Because what happens is, during childhood, your self-worth is coming into play. How your parents engage with you, that shapes your worth and your value. And if there's someone who doesn't show up at all, you start to question your own value. Even though it has nothing to do with you, it's a choice that they made that impacts your mental health. And the interesting thing about mental health, regardless of race, is that depressive symptomatology looks different in men than it does women. So
Talk to me. You're not getting. You got to break that down, because you're just dropping knowledge bombs, Dr. Cassandra. Keep on going. Keep on going.
yeah. So what we see is that, a lot of times for women, depression may manifest more so with those internalizing behaviors, crying, withdrawal, typically what we think of when we think of depression. But a lot of times for men, it may look like risk-taking behaviors and engagement in maybe even, just risk-taking behaviors. It may look like irritability. It may look like aggression. It may look like anger, because those may be safer displays of your depressed state than those internalizing behaviors. And so even sometimes I think the assessment, there are even one of my colleagues, she shared with me a new assessment tool for assessing depression in men that they're trying to validate that looks at those symptoms that we may not quote unquote think looks like depression, right? Right. And so we have to be kind of even kind of considering that, him engaging in these risk-taking behaviors, having sex with multiple partners, this might be depression.
Wow, like, and Nicole is saying here, and Nicole's reading my alleged mind. Then that boy who feels rejected by their father, not showing up and disappointing them. We so need a series on this. And then she says, "Come on now, Dr. Cassandra. Come on now."
Yes.
No, and everyone who's watching this live on the replay or listening to it on replay, before we went live, I already told Dr. Cassandra that she is welcome to come back anytime. Now I'm asking live for her to come back,
I'd be delighted.
because they're just what you dropped in the last 10 to 15 minutes, valuable to the core. Nicole has another question. Can this level of depression contribute to developing psychosis bipolar?
Yes, it definitely can. Here's the thing. This is how this happens. This is how this happens. This is how this works. Okay, so not having a father in your life is an adverse childhood experience. It's an ACE. Okay, so Kaiser Permanente, in conjunction with the CDC, they created the study to see how does adversity during childhood, how does that impact one's life trajectory and health, right? And so what we see is, not having a father involved in your life, other adverse experiences, abuse, anything of that nature, even contextual things, being raised in an environment that feels unsafe, having a parent go to prison, having a sibling go to prison, all of those are considered ACEs. And in a lot of our communities, there's a higher degree of people who have those ACEs. And when you have a lot of ACEs, it can literally shave years off of your life. So what happens is those ACEs, they literally restructure the architecture of the child's brain. And it affects the reward centers of the brain, and it also affects the learning centers of the brain. Such that we see that when people have gone through that adversity, the pleasure areas of the brain, they feel it more. So things that would be okay, pleasurable for someone, and that can make people even more prone to substance use concerns. But their brains, the architecture of their brains have been reshaped by this trauma. And even if someone doesn't engage in substance use concerns, we still see that it's affected their brains. And not only has it affected their brains and making them more susceptible to mood disorders and other, emotional concerns, but it also impacts their health, higher likelihood of cancer. You wouldn't even think that would be associated with it, but it is. Higher degree of cancer, higher degree of diabetes, chronic illnesses that we didn't even think would be associated with it. But what has happened is the child's brain has been reshaped, and also too, their stress response system has changed. And this literally can shave years off of people's lives. Like when we think about this thing is literally a matter of life and death. Wow. And this role, see, fathers have a protective role to play in the life. And here's the thing: is that fatherhood, like, it's a part of a system.
Go on, Dr. Cassandra. Go, man. The digital platform, make it happen. I'm coming off the screen. Go.
And when we think about it, see, we have to also restore the couple relationship. Like, I know in some situations, them not being together, it may have been a toxic situation, but we still have to uphold the ideal, even if that's not going to be in reach for a lot of people. But how can we tell this next generation that this needs to be a part of your recipe for success? If you know what I'm saying? Like your recipe for success, oh gosh, even when we think about it on an economic level and want to combat, and empower people financially, having a strong, stable, healthy marriage is such a powerful thing to do. And so it's like, see, fatherhood is not in isolation.
Repeat that, please. Repeat that.
Fatherhood is not in isolation. There was something that occurred between, but it was a relationship that happened between two people to produce this beautiful life. And there are certain things that are needed to sustain that life. And it's not just, the nutrients coming from the mother, but even after birth, there are certain structures in place that are needed to sustain that life. And when you see it from this perspective, of it can literally cut your life short. There are things that are needed to sustain this life. And so fatherhood is not in isolation. How can we reboot the entire system and get to the root cause of this thing and build this on a strong foundation?
Wow. I won't wave my flag. I surrender to Dr. Cassandra. I'm telling you, and the folks that are watching live, I'll put up some of their comments. Melvin Lar, she's bringing the heat. Yes. Nicole saying, I love Dr. Cassandra. Where have you been hiding? Well, she's here now. Don't worry about where she has been. And Nicole says also, yes. My goodness. Oh, wow. That was good stuff. I could go 2 hours. We're not going to go 2 hours because you do have a family. So I want to, and you do have work to do. Well, it's Thanksgiving tomorrow, so I want you to be cool. But I'm glad you're getting it all out before Thanksgiving. It's all good. So many different areas. Let me go down this road, and maybe we'll finish off with this because you've set yourself up for part 2. And if you don't come back, all these people are going to come after me. You realize that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing right here. Nicole is saying, I'm crying here. Powerful stuff you're sharing. In your eyes and in your heart, how has this year impacted Black fathers? I know, and when I see that look, something strong is coming from your heart. So I know this is going to be good.
It took I think that everything that it took all of those, it took the bottom out. It's kind of like, so here's the thing, like COVID hit our community harder than any other community in every way. More disproportionately affected by deaths, disproportionately affected financially. And so it literally took the bottom out. And it has shown us that, you know, it has shown us the power of our life decisions, right? And the fact that, you know, we were trying to do it on our own, like it kind of showed us that we need somebody. You know, we need somebody. And it just hit Black fathers extremely hard. It hit them very, very hard. It hit our community very hard, you know, in general. And it took away every safety net. It took away a lot of safety nets, you know. And so we have to kind of reestablish those and be that safety net at home, find new arenas, you know, utilize our gifts in different ways, find new ways to bring in income. Mm-hmm. And having a healthy way to process all of this weight, because it's kind of like an invisible hand, this whole COVID-19. You know, and then on top of that, not only did we have, when we're thinking about it from a mental health perspective, so COVID-19 in and of itself is a whammy, right? But we've also had this political unrest. We've also had Ahmaud Arbery. We've also had Breonna Taylor. We've also had, you know, all of this going on at the same time. George Floyd. It's been like a perfect storm. And for a lot of Black men, they probably feel like they have a target on their backs more now than ever before. And so that's a lot of angst to deal with. And we need to have some kind of we need to have some places for them to decompress, because this has hit them harder than most.
Wow, it's so true. It's so true. And one of the things that Kenneth Braswell, Fathers Incorporated, says that,
I love him.
You know, I remember the first time I had him on, and you may have heard it during the conversation, that every father has a father. The question is, where is that father?
Yeah.
And I think there are many Black fathers that are physically there, but emotionally they're not there.
Right. Yes. And so we, you know, that weight, and it's easy to disengage. And when you have that weight, that's what depression looks like, regardless of gender, you know? And now we have this extra weight of this whole situation, wanting to, give them the freedom to just be vulnerable and brave, at the
But
same
but
time.
it's a difficult thing because many of them have never been exposed to it or seen it, or
Yeah.
if they have seen it, it's not been the best examples of it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that especially when we're thinking about fatherhood, or maybe not seeing the best examples, is, I, I think it's learning and getting exposed to other examples. It's kind of like college. Like if you're a first generation college student, no one in your family background ever went to college, or maybe didn't even value college, then you may need to find a mentor. You may need to find a guidance counselor who believes in you, who's telling you what you need to do, telling you what you need to do to get established and get, to this next stage, what you need to do to apply. So we need other people to kind of come alongside them. We need community again. I think if anything, this time has shown us the power of community. And we need that again. We need people holding people to the wall. Like, okay, what are you doing here? Those people who kind of get on to you, but they love you. And it may not have to be a family member, but it's somebody who cares about you. And having that teachable spirit to understand that maybe I don't know it all. And it stings a little, but I'd rather it sting now than for it to sting for 2 and 3 and 4 generations.
Say that again, you're preaching.
But yeah, just, I'd rather it sting a little bit now and it hurts you a little bit now, and you kind of pull yourself together so that 3 and 4 generations from now don't have to suffer to a greater extent than what you've gone through. You can change. This is one thing I always tell my couples. I say that the legacy of healthy relationships, it can start with you, regardless of what you've seen. If you educate yourself, you surround yourself with community, you can achieve this thing. It's not impossible.
Good stuff. Do you mind if we keep you a few minutes past the top of the hour? Because
Of
okay,
course.
because the audience is loving you. So just want to catch up on comments here. Nicole says, "You know why I'm crying, Dr. Vibe." And then also Nicole says, we need a healing to happen for our Black men on so many levels so that they can stand fully in their truth of who they are. Thank you for having this conversation. Melvin is asking, how do you feel about Black men that sit back and wait on our Black queens to do the intellectual and physical fighting holistically? Good question.
I think that some of that may be crouched in our history of, kind of like that strong matriarch. But here's the thing, is that there is a strength in our men that once they taste walking in it, they're not going to want to walk any other way. And we have to kind of hold people to the fire in that respect. Other men saying, no, 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 this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. And here's the thing is that we as a culture, so I'm grateful for those strong matriarchs. And in many cases, they had to be. They had no choice, right? But here's the thing as well. And we sometimes very much so highly esteem that. And I'm so appreciative for all of those people and all those women who had to do what they had to do. But sometimes they did it and it killed them early. The stress that put on their bodies. Because as strong as we are as Black women, this thing was not meant to be done alone. It's just not how it was made to be.
Wonderful. I think we'll end part 1 on that. I think that is part 1. Nicole is saying here, Dr. Cassandra, continue to walk in wisdom. You're such a blessing to the world.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. That's encouraging. Well, Give all the glory to God.
I receive that. So before we let you go from part one, I keep on emphasizing part one. I want you to give a message to some different groups
Mhm,
about Black fatherhood.
mhm.
I'm going to use a term that Melvin Lars taught me. What would you like to say about Black fatherhood to those who are non-melanated?
Mhm.
Because many of them may have an impression that is not correct. So I'll let you do with non-melanated first.
Okay, message. I would say first to examine why you believe, examine what is your current picture of Black fatherhood, and maybe why do you believe that way about Black fathers. And then I would just say that it's such a beautiful story. Be open to learning all of the nuances. I would say, get to know Black, other. I mean, you probably do, but ask questions of people in people who you trust and who understand your curiosity, and get those questions answered, and kind of get a full, like, our all of our pictures are short-sighted, and there's always ways in which we can expand our thinking and our understanding. And I would just say seek those things out. Seek those things out.
Okay, next group. I don't know if I put them separately or together. Um, are Black women and Black mothers a separate group, or would you put them all in the same when I talk about Black fatherhood?
Mm. I mean, because some Black women may not be mothers, so I guess I would start with Black mothers.
Okay.
Such that there's, fathers, Black men, they add something very unique to to the lives of their children. Support them in being there for their children. Recognize the value that they bring. Encourage that. Anytime you see anything that you want to see replicated, encourage it. Oh, I like how you did that. You'll see some more of that. And build up his self esteem with regard to his fathering capabilities. Build that up. Build that up. I think sometimes it's easy to kind of pull things apart. Even how how you like to keep your house, and you like to keep it clean, and sometimes your husband doesn't clean it, or partner doesn't clean it the way you want it to. That's okay. That's okay. Encourage what he is doing. And so I would just encourage what you want to see. Recognize, and if you're not in a situation where you are together, do everything that's in alignment with what's best for co-parenting for that child, because that's what really matters.
Okay. Do you want to address Black women that are not mothers, or does that message cover them
Yeah,
all?
I think that might be all encompassing
Okay.
now.
So then we'll leave last two groups, and they're both subsets, both involving Black men. First of all, to Black men who are not fathers.
Mhm. Yes. So I just honestly, I want to encourage you. Even though you may not have seen an example, maybe you may even have some old hurts, some old wounds related to the lack of experiencing, a father who's involved in your life. I say use that as motivation, because you understand what it feels like. And the beautiful thing is that these are skills, healthy fathering skills. These are fathering skills. And the beautiful thing about skills is that skills can be developed. You can educate yourself on healthy fathering skills. And so you can build yourself up in these areas. And so, and if he wasn't involved, then if he would have been involved in a negative way, you don't have that. What if he was involved and maybe that could have, maybe, if there was toxicity there, you didn't have to experience that. But, moving forward, you can learn. You can learn and you don't have to repeat those cycles. You don't have to repeat those cycles. Skills can be developed and you have everything you need to develop those skills.
Does that also cover for Black fathers too, what you just shared?
Oh, Black fathers. Oh, Black fathers. Oh, well, Black fathers in general, I just want to tell you that, we need you. Like this thing cannot be done without you. And it wasn't made to be done without you. And so even if things don't work out with you and the mother, like you're still vital, you're still critical for that child's development. And y'all are still gonna have to work together, even though you're not together. You're gonna still have to work together for the well-being of that child. But I just want to remind you that you are essential. It's not even an option. Like just your value, what you provide, who you are. It's just incredible. It's so incredible.
But before we finish off, what is one actionable step that a Black man could do to be better at relationships? What's one suggestion that you would have?
I think that it would be seeking to find mutual understanding.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
You want to expand on that? Because I know you want to. So I told you, I'm giving you space. Go for it.
Consider how every other person is experiencing the same thing that you're experiencing. So what is the perspective of the child in the situation? What is the perspective of the mother in the situation? And how can I validate their feelings, even if I feel differently about the situation? How can I validate that? How can I see it from their standpoint and operate from a place of empathy? And here's the thing, when you operate from that place of empathy, that's going to create connection. And despite there being challenges, these challenges do not have to create a wedge between you and the mother or you and your child. These can actually be opportunities to foster understanding and closeness and empathy. So seeking mutual understanding is so powerful.
Beautiful way to end off an epic conversation. And if people ask, what are these epic conversations you talk about? Watch this. Listen to this. This was epic. Dr. Cassandra, I am immensely grateful that you came on and took time out of your family schedule, your professional schedule to share with us tonight. It was outstanding.
Oh, thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope something was helpful, encouraging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For people who are watching this live on the replay, I'm going to put up her contact information, her website, upliftingrelationships.com. Also, Uplifting Relationships on Facebook. Email address, upliftingrelationships@gmail.com. And on Instagram, it's at @dr_Cassandra. So if you're watching this on the replay, if you come to the end or you watch this, you'll be able to see all that contact information. If you're listening, write it down or contact me or look at the post that is attached to this epic conversation. This was a good one, folks. If you missed it, oh my, oh my, oh my. So I'm going to say here, just closing off, I am Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of epic conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 Internet News Award winner and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, once a month, I host Epic Conversations for Fathers and Dads. They're co-sponsored by Dad Central and Dove Men Care. I would like to thank some of these people who helped make this conversation epic. Melvin, of course, from Louisiana. Olivia Fung, Dr. Fung, thank you so much. Nicole, of course. Of course, Ronnie Bolar. We cannot leave you out, my brother, because you married up. And everyone else who watches live on the replay, if I did not mention you, it's my head, not my heart. I always end off my conversations like this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. And I'm not a psychologist or as knowledgeable in all this stuff as Dr. Bolar, but I will also say, remember to give yourself grace. God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and I'm going to work like cray to have Dr. Cassandra back on. Good night, everybody. God bless and keep the faith and walk good.